Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to another brand new episode of the Techospace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and honored to welcome our guest, Mr. Christian D. Borchert, who is the founder of Blue Elephant Solutions Company, and he's based out of Ingelheim, Rhineland-Palatinate region of Germany. Now, shedding some spotlight about Blue Elephant Solutions Company, it's a company that's completely into the IT services and IT consulting based in the Southeast Asian region of Singapore, going on with the slogan of your partner for AI enabled learning and knowledge management solutions. That really speaks volumes about their creativity and their trust with respect to their clients. Now, along with that, apart from the Blue Elephant Solutions company, Christian even has other ventures, which we are going to talk about in deep as we go ahead in this podcast session. So, more about that coming very soon. So, Christian, it gives me an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this podcast session of mine. So, how are you doing, and how's the weather in your hometown right now?
Akil, thank you very much for inviting us or me. It's an honor to be in your podcast. We are regular listeners to it. It's an amazing podcast. And to answer your question, the weather is good. It's still early in the morning here. The sun is rising, the temperatures are going up, and the mood is also good. So, ready for your podcast and hopefully have an interesting session for your listeners.
That definitely will. It's going to be really insightful, trust me. And yeah, one thing I can envy of with respect to the weather update that you have told with respect to Germany is that in Melbourne the weather is not good. It's too cold here, and we are just every day we're just experiencing the cold just keeping on increasing but day by day. So it's just really that way. I really want the weather that's there in Germany in Australia anyway. It'll take some months,
Well,
by
but
the
it's
way.
winter now in Australia, so you don't want to have the winter weather in Germany. It's also not very nice. So,
Yeah. There's a connectivity factor there for sure. All right. So at the stroke of this hour, which is 5:09 p.m. Melbourne time, let's kick off with our podcast episode. So Christian, Christian, walk me through your journey, like where you started it big in the IT industry. Like how did it start for you from there?
okay. I mean, there's a short and there's a long version. I probably rather give you a short overview of where it started. So, after school, I did an education on IT development. That really started to get me interested in the topic. Then I joined university. I studied business economics and computer science. Had many internships in that time, also one in Silicon Valley, actually, where I was an intern for a month, and then other internships around the world. And after university, having this combination of business economics and computer science, worked for multiple different companies, which we can maybe dive in later a little bit more. So the topic always from the university through the companies I worked for, big international global companies, until founding my own company, is really just continuously going through the CV.
Yeah. So Christian, like that's pretty much, encouraging and let's say inspiring. Now, Christian, you told you had a stint at the Silicon Valley. So what were the key points that you have grabbed during your, stay in Silicon Valley? Like, what did you just, come across?
Work hard, party hard, to be honest. I mean, the guys I was working there, I was very young at that time. I was maybe, I don't know, 18, 20 or something like that. And those guys, they were working like crazy. There was one person that I actually was allowed to stay at his place during the internship. And he welcomed me in his apartment and he said, "Look, Christian, there's a huge TV. I borrowed some pillows from the neighbors because I don't have much. In his kitchen, he only had one spoon, one fork, and one knife. And in the fridge, there was only yogurt. There was no other food, nothing to cook because he didn't have much time to do all of this. And he had a bed. And he said he's waking up every morning at 4. He goes to the gym at 6. He's in the office. He works until midnight, and then he goes back home. That's his life, right? And
Oh,
that's the spirit which he was working. So yeah, that left an impression on work ethics.
all right. I think that slogan really comes handy. Work hard, party hard. It always, fits. I think from Silicon Valley, probably, it shifts to the whole dynamics of the world. And, in the current scenario of where I am at the moment, again, trying for my next steps in my life. Yeah. So I think listeners also would totally resonate with this word, work hard, party hard.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, Christian. Now, Christian, can you give me a deep insight of so Christian, can you give me a deep insight during your tenure of being a consultant for the world-renowned German car manufacturing company BMW? Like, how was that experience like?
Yeah. Um, so I think that was actually then the implementation of what I saw during that internship. So as a consultant, um, we really worked hard. So a 12-day, 12-hour day or a 14-hour day is very normal. It gives you a great experience because you can work with multiple clients, you can work with in multiple projects. You gain a lot of experience during that time, but it's also a tough time. I remember days where we were finishing presentations until 6 a.m. in the morning, then quickly rushing home, having a shower, and then driving down to Munich to the customer to hold the presentation. So no sleep, no nothing, right? But it's exciting. And as a young person, you have all this energy, and I can just recommend this experience to not start working in just one narrow field, but be open-minded, get a lot of experience, get a lot of exposure.
Right. So then back then when you were working as a consultant for the BMW company, then during that time, like how were your projects mostly involved? Like how were your projects mostly dealt with? Were they on the, notes of creating, were they on the notes of, with respect to the car manufacturing, or was it like, creating an interface for the, for the front end customers, like let's say the business users belonging to BMW? Like what were the projects
Yeah,
about back then?
very, very good question. So we were mainly focusing on CRM and sales enablement for BMW. First, that was only in the German market, then also later on international. That means how can BMW generate more leads, meaning interest more customers, and then how can they convert those interested people in becoming customers, and how can they keep them as customers, maybe upsell them to a new higher model and things like this. And so that included often also rolling out CRM systems and making sure that all the data driven and automating those kinds of processes. But maybe on the topic of IT, also a small story when I was doing a project for them in China, actually. We
Oh,
rolled out a CRM system, and there was a huge problem because every night the server crashed, and we
oh
didn't
my
know
God.
why, right? So we had the CRM system running, and it also needs to run throughout the night to update all the data and everything. But every night the server crashed, and the IT team, they couldn't find out what was wrong. So what they actually did is they said, okay, we need to have one person staying overnight and just watching the system, like what's happening. And what they noticed is in the night, the cleaning people came, they pulled out the power plug of the server, they plugged in the power plug of the vacuum, and they were vacuuming the server room.
Oh
So
my
it
God.
wasn't an IT issue in that sense. So, like, what I want to say with this is sometimes the IT problem you're facing might have a non-IT solution to it. So you always need
Exactly.
to not too narrow-minded look at your one topic, but be open-minded to look for other solutions. Yeah, that was a fun and also experience that I keep in my mind to look outside of the bowl that you're focusing on.
That's brilliant. I mean, this really certainly comes handy as a very crazy anecdote, by the way, for sure. Now, Christian, since you told like you went all the way to China, when you were in China, like how did you, sell the product? Or let's say like you were part of the IT team. I totally understand that. Now, in that case, like how are the sales in China with respect to the BMW company back then? Like, was
Yeah.
there interest from the Chinese counterparts?
Yeah, of course. So BMW was partnering or had a joint venture at that time with BYD, which is now one of the biggest car manufacturers worldwide, I guess, and probably becoming a fast competitor of BMW. And they had a very nice sales strategy. So they had the car outlets where you had a few cars in the showroom, and then there was a garage on top of that. And when somebody came and wanted to buy a car, they always looked around and said, I'm not sure if I still have one available. Let me see. And then they just, said, okay, I found one last car for you that you can actually buy, but I cannot really give you a rebate or anything because it's the last one we have.
Yeah.
And then the customer was interested to buy because he couldn't see anything comparable in the showroom, and they went up into the garage where there was hundreds of cars still stacked, but the customer didn't know, right? So it's always this balance of information when you do want to say or want to do sales. The balance of information is something important to consider during that time. So was how they, at that time, that was like 20 years ago, did the selling there.
Oh, that's brilliant. Now that's pretty much
Right.
insightful about the Chinese market with respect to their their rapport with respect to BMW cars. Now I just wanted to understand this, like Christian, like can you tell me about your experience of being part of the Siemens Healthcare like a few years ago?
Yeah. So after BMW times or working there as a consultant, I actually became CEO of this company, this consulting company. But then I needed to make a decision if I want to stay in the automotive industry or again broaden the horizon and look into some other industries. And that is then I actually decided to say, well, I rather want to be more the generalist and get to know BMW is a B2C, business to consumer, and I was then also interested to see the B2B business. I was looking around for some interesting companies, and at that time there was a nice offer from Siemens Healthineers to in a very similar field like what we were doing for BMW. I applied for that job. I actually called the same day when I was sending my invite, my CV there, and the person in contact, they actually called me back the next day and they said, okay, look, we actually already have a candidate that we settled down with, but we think your profile is really interesting, so we want to invite you. And I was going for the interview. My then future boss was there, and the HR manager were there, and we were going through the topics, what they are looking for, and that was really a one-to-one fit. So after the end of the interview, they said, "Look, we're going to sadly need to tell the other candidate that we cannot take him, and we're going to hire you," and gave us the handshake on this one. And then I started working for them, also in the space of CRM and sales enablement. That was mainly like customer satisfaction surveys and CRM tool implementations, also in worldwide projects. Yeah, and one of the more interesting experiences there was when I was looking at how Siemens Healthineers was doing their customer management. They were actually not looking at the profitability of their individual customers. And that was something I don't understand, because of course, the goal of a company is to be profitable in a meaningful way, which definitely is there, but you also need to make sure that there's a win-win situation. It cannot be that the customer wins and you as a company, provides a service that the company
Indeed.
wants to have, is losing, right? So but I always heard the message, look, we have tried that so many times and there's no possibility that we can achieve this. Until one day where I was sent to a meeting. It was a global workshop, which was happening actually at the location where I was based, close to Frankfurt in Germany. And it was exactly about this topic. And I was sent there with the message, look, we're busy with some other topics. We cannot go to this meeting. Go there, listen, but do not take home any assignments. And
Right.
we ended up, so it was really about customer classification and making sure that understanding the profitability and aligning our service levels, so that every customer is in a sense, at least to a certain degree, profitable. And yeah, so I didn't take home any specific assignments because I became the project leader at that time. They were looking for a project leader, and I knew that's exactly the thing we need. And that was like a 2-year project, traveling around the world, implementing this project worldwide, and it was really a good experience. And again, giving us the idea of, look, nothing is impossible, even if it has been tried multiple times before. It actually became one of the most successful projects and rollouts for Siemens Healthineers in a long time. So not only because of me, there were many, many good people involved, but nothing is impossible. Go for your dream and just do it. Yeah.
Absolutely, Christian. That's a right word. Everything is possible. You just have to give your effort and that hard work that goes on with it.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, Christian, now since I just raised out this point saying that Siemens Healthcare, and since you also mentioned me that you traveled around the world for different projects. Now, when we talk about the healthcare industry and in Siemens Healthcare, like what was this the main country that Siemens Healthcare got its projects from? Like which country did the projects usually, I mean, receive the most?
I mean, US is definitely a huge market, um, uh, and just because it's just a lot of people there and well funded. But China is also, I think, actually during that time, maybe 2015-ish, I would say, China overcame the market size from the US and became increasingly important for Siemens Healthineers.
Brilliant, Christian. Now, Christian, like what gave you the inspiration to start your company, Blue Elephants Solutions, and why did you specifically only choose Singapore as your operating location?
Good. Also, very, very good question. So with Siemens Healthineers, I started based in Germany, and then through this international exposure, I was soon asked to take over some responsibility in Southeast Asia, mainly based in Singapore, and then taking care first of the ASEAN market, and then the entire Southeast Asian market for certain topics. I'm not the country lead or anything, but so I was focusing there on partner management, managing distributors in all the small countries around Southeast Asia, but also in Japan and Korea. There's also a lot of distributors, same as in China. Um, and so started with partner management, then transitioned, had additional hat for sales education, making sure that we educate our salespeople in a meaningful way, and then also later on some key account management topics and support there. But the eye-opening factor was for me when I was in sales education, and I was seeing that we, as Siemens Healthineers, we hired the best trainers in the world. We were like buying the best training programs, and we were flying to the nicest locations with the salespeople, and they had like, I don't know, like 2, 3, 4 days, intense workshops, trainings, negotiation skills, negotiation trainings, and all of this. And they were really engaged. I mean, the Siemens staff, top notch, really, really powerful people, very engaged. And they were really trying to grasp all these negotiation skills and techniques and everything for those 3 days where they had the interaction. And then they came back home and they were busy with some emails and project updates and this and this and this. And after 2 weeks, when they first time saw the customer again, they pretty much were falling back into the same
Oh,
structure and the same way they did negotiations as they did before. So meaning there was no real change after the training happening. And that is when I was looking for some solutions in the market. I said, we know Siemens and definitely no other company can afford to spend a lot of money in training if nothing changes afterwards. Then I just don't need to do the training, right? But then it means I also don't achieve the goals I have. I need to train my people to have to achieve my strategic goals. And I couldn't find any solution in the market to make sure that this training becomes more sticky, what they have learned, right? And that's when I decided to found my own company. Because I was based in Singapore at that time, obviously I decided to found the company in Singapore. And the main focus in the beginning was to focus on how can we take after a training has been delivered, how can we make sure that this not only becomes knowledge that I have somewhere in the far back of my mind, but how can we make this to become a habit and to become actionable? And that was the core focus. We used different, or we still use different techniques for this. One main technique is spaced learning or spaced repetition, meaning you repeat certain information behaviors over time, multiple times. So, in meaning after the sales training, we expose the trainees with some scenarios where they need to apply what they have learned shortly after the training, and then a little bit more time, a little bit more time, a little bit more time. And by doing this, they get used to apply this knowledge. And if they are in a real situation in the future with a customer, because they have already trained this inner muscle of how to react to this, and it's just a reflex to apply this knowledge because they have done it so many times. It's the same reason why when you look at, watch TV or YouTube or whatever, or go to
Yeah,
websites, you see the same advertisement popping up over and over again. Because they know if we just show you the advertisement once, we can say, oh, knowledge transferred, everything is good. But that's not it,
exactly.
right? The marketing industry exactly knows why they show you this more and more and more, and also
Right.
over a longer period,
Yeah.
because it becomes familiar. And the next time you're in the store, you see the brand, you say, oh, I'm not sure what to buy, but this one I know, I trust for whatever reason, just because you have been exposed multiple times, so you pick this product. And the same is what we do with trainings.
That's brilliant. Now, you were just telling me about space learning, right? Space learning with respect to the AI. Now, Christian, if I would just like to ask you, like, how did you come up with this term, or let's say, how did you coin this particular term as space learning?
Well, space learning is not a term that we have phrased. This is a long explored methodology, actually also by a German guy who discovered, I would say, the forgetting curve, which means that after you learn something or you get a new information, there will be a forgetting curve that is normally like
Yeah.
exponentially. You very quickly start forgetting. And he then did multiple different tests by like showing you information again and then observing how the forgetting curve is happening. And then he came up with this approach of spaced learning, where we then just developed an algorithm, a machine learning algorithm in our solution that helps to determine for every individual learner what is his individual forgetting curve and when is the ideal point in time to repeat micro knowledge or micro lessons again. So it's not about doing then again a 1 hour training, but just to repeat a 5 second information snippet and this and this and this. And that really just keeps it up. So you invest big effort one time to train, and then only very small efforts to keep the knowledge up and
Hmm.
also be able to apply it.
Christian, when you were just giving me the example of, 5 seconds, like, repeating every particular topic, it just reminded me of the agile projects, because agile projects, they happen in sprint wise, and everything is, jotted down or broken down into small segments. So, I think there is a connectivity in that way, but not with respect to the time duration, but with the respect to the way we are conducting it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Now, Christian, I would just like to, ask this from you, like, what are the areas that your company, Blue Elephant Solutions, is currently focused on?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, the core of our company was in the beginning to make sure that the training becomes more sticky and use methodologies that just have not been taken up in the past. And then relatively soon, it was actually during COVID time. I was still traveling between multiple countries. My wife is also from Asia, but not from Singapore, so we were traveling around. And during COVID time, we always needed to be in quarantine. When we traveled to Taiwan, where my wife is from, there was always a 2 week quarantine period before we could go out and see the family. And I still remember sitting there and, you know, being not so busy, being not be able to go out and do things outside, doing a lot of research online. And I discovered the first really breakthroughs in AI. And that is when we also, when I decided for my company to take up and look into AI and what AI is able to do. At that very, very first part, it was a picture or image generation, but then I very quickly understood all the other things that we were working with OpenAI far before it became ChatGPT and those amazing new tools that everybody knew. We were working with them already years before that. And I just understood the potential for learning and development because you can really use artificial intelligence and especially large learning modules to modify learning content and create hyper-personalized training experiences. And that means content-wise, so like not the same content might be relevant for everybody, but also you can customize it in the tone of voice, like how do I explain certain things? You can customize it to the needs of the learners. You can customize the depth level to the experience level of the users. You can adjust the difficulty to the individual users because the LLMs, they allow us, the large language models, they allow us to, for very small money, really customize this completely individual for one learner. Yeah. So, and coming back to your question, so that's one big area that we now invest in our company is on developing solutions for learning and development, but also for knowledge management, including AI, but we also do a lot of custom development projects. So we have a few customers around the world, Europe and Asia. US is not really a big market for us at the moment, but Europe and Asia, where we have worked with universities to develop custom learning tools for them. We work with smaller companies and bigger companies. It might be, we now currently have a project with a lawyer who wants to build a legal tech solution. So we're helping them actually with that one as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's many. We have a really nice project with the Singapore government, Ministry of Education, where we were able to receive a grant for the development of some new innovative features. We are talking with the Ministry of Health in Ireland at the moment to take up on our what we call the AI conversation coach. So where we use AI to simulate a persona in a conversation scenario, and then the learner can practice his conversation skills or her conversation skills. And the companies, they can create those scenarios themselves, and the AI will then just simulate that. And actually quite exciting. There's also including, we could upload a picture of you, for example, and the AI will then animate your head and lip sync your lips, and you will speak to the people. So it's
Okay.
really immersive experience.
Brilliant. So you were just giving me the example of, an AI translator, let's say the AI coach kind of a thing. Now,
Yeah.
Christian, if I would just like to ask you, did it ever occur to you that, you wanted to create your own GPT model or let's say LLM model for that matter?
No, I think that's unreasonable to expect because that unless somebody has a few $1 billion left and wants to give it to us, I think we're not in this game. That's what the huge companies are doing. But what we do is we put layers on top of existing models. So the beauty that we have is that we can choose whatever model fits best the needs of our customers, not only in terms of features, but also in terms of compliance. So when we work with customers in Europe, there's a big requirement of having GDPR compliant models, so where the data should not be sent to the US. And then we are able to use local models here. We're able to implement even open source models on the servers of our customers, so that even if it's the data is not even leaving the environment of the customer, and really makes it not only GDPR compliant but also very secure.
Absolutely.
But what we do always is we add an extra layer of training where it's called RAG systems, or retrieval augmented
Yep.
I don't even know what the G for stands for, but in the end, we take company-specific knowledge and then we convert that in a way that the AI can use that as an additional knowledge base, so that we have customer-specific knowledge bases available for the AI.
That's amazing to know. So now, Krishan, I just wanted to understand, like, what was it like? What was your experience like? Teaming up with the Singapore Institute for Adult Education, and apart from Singapore, is there any other Southeast Asian country that Blue Elephant Solutions is currently eyeing on?
Yeah. So I actually dropped out of the call with the Institute for Adult Learning just now, just before our call or our podcast here. So that's a 1 year project that we're working with them together. Great support, great people, a lot of very um, experienced people that can help us to guide us through these developments and this building these innovations. And as a Singapore-based company, we were very proud that we're able to work with the Ministry of Education, which is the IAL is a part of the Ministry of Education, to have this close relationship. And we just had a call this week with another non-profit organization in Singapore that is interested to using our solutions to train all the other non-profit organizations in Singapore. And that also really makes us proud to be able to give something back to the Singapore ecosystem by, not only receiving grants to develop a nice tool, but that tool really becomes actionable and delivers value in the entire ecosystem in Singapore. And not only Singapore, but like you mentioned, we're of course expanding also in Southeast Asia in general. We do have some sales representatives in Vietnam and in Malaysia as well. But we're also open for sales representatives in other countries. So if any of your listeners is interested in getting in contact with me, please feel free to do
Absolutely.
so. Um, so yeah, those are where we have sales representatives, but we're also looking into projects in Indonesia, in India, of course, really
Wow.
interesting market for us. And also Australia, New Zealand is definitely in Asia, Southeast Asia, a relevant
Mhm.
market. Markets where we do not really focus too much on is China, Japan, and Korea.
Mhm.
At this point in time, I think there is they are just very specific in the needs that they have and the way their culture is working, where we believe we first want to create a fit into the Southeast Asian markets, India, Australia, and then move on to the more cultural-wise adaptive markets. But also
That
Europe in general is a very interesting market, and we're very active there. Like I mentioned, we have in Europe a connection currently with the Ministry of Health. They are looking for this conversation coach training for 100,000 plus users. And this is also a general interesting market.
that's amazing to know. Now, I mean, that's a huge market, I would say, Christian. Now, you were just talking about the Ministry of Health. May I know, like, which is the, country that it is based in Europe?
Um, so because it's still early discussions, I would
All
not
right.
want to expose that, but
No, no worries.
it's an English-speaking country, so there is not too many of
Okay.
this.
I probably will get the, the hint of which country it is. But yeah, anyway, will not reveal that about it because it's, at the early stages. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too early.
Yeah. Now, when we were talking about the Singapore Institute for Adult Education, now I just wanted to know, Christian, like who are the business users or let's say end users who are using the particular, let's say the AI-driven retention app
Yeah.
that, yeah.
So the Singapore Institute of Technology, SIT, is one of the big universities in Singapore and really leading in building new um, innovative learning solutions for their students. And we work very closely with them on building those tools for them. And so the end users are normally the students, and out of different disciplines. We have thankfully very many different projects with the SIT, reaching from very specific trainings on, for example, how to um, um, uh, read and interpret medical records. So teaching the students this part up to very generic tools and projects where we say there's a catalog with all the courses that are available inside and outside of the university, and they're then packed together into kind of learning modules consisting of multiple different trainings. And then we also have projects where we include artificial intelligence to analyze what the students are writing or saying. So one current project is where we look at Zoom conversations of students, internal meetings that are recorded, and then the AI will analyze them and say, hey, look, your conversation style in general is good, but your speaking percentage in this conversation was very
Oh,
little, so maybe you should become a little bit more dominant, or you should, or when you express your opinions, you should maybe not do it in a very aggressive way, but give a little bit options more to discuss it. Or so it's a general feedback on communication skills. And yeah, so there's really a broad band of things we develop with them.
that's brilliant. And that when you were just talking about the Zoom call thing, that was pretty innovative, I must say, Christian, for sure.
And I mean, the ideas, right, are all coming
Yeah.
from the customers. They have these really good ideas.
Okay.
They just often don't know, or they then approach us to help us to realize those things. So I see us always as an enabler for the dreams and visions that our customers
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
That's our job, right? We make
Mhm.
things happen that you imagine and that you would like to have.
Exactly. Exactly. That's truly said. Now, when you're doing the project, so let's say when you're collaborating with the Singapore Institute for Adult Education. Now, in that case, I just wanted to understand, like, are you I mean, running the projects on a waterfall basis, or are you following the agile route? Like, which one are
Yeah, no,
you
no.
going on with?
So yeah, look, the thing is that most customers want to have fixed prices. So it's easier to calculate, right? They don't want to have
Yeah.
the risk. But on the other hand, the requirements in the beginning are very vague. So it's always a little bit balance, I would say, that if you want to really run a waterfall project, you need to have very clear requirements from the beginning, and then
Exactly.
you break them down, and then you can also normally work on a fixed price basis. But the world, and especially AI, is changing so quickly. I would always recommend every customer to work more on a budget, but then time-based approach. So we normally say, okay, we have a rough idea of what you want to have. You don't need to specify everything, because normally the customers even themselves don't know exactly what they need. They just have the
Yep.
vision. And then we agree on roughly a budget that would help us to maybe achieve a certain level of those features. We start working on this one. If there is um, uh, if there's big deviations where we see, oh, this feature is way more complicated, we then normally discuss with the customer and are able to take it out and put other smaller things in replacement, and then have a partner approach that we say, look, we both understand we want to drive this project forward, we want to make it successful, and we normally then also work in phases, so that we say, look, we start with this first phase, we put it live, then we think about the next features, the next features, the next features. Yeah, so it's more an agile approach, I would say.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Christian. Now, Christian, can you elaborate me about the AI-driven retention app that you have created, on also with respect to the Outlook plugin that's embedded in it? And apart from Blue Elephant Solutions, our listeners would be very keen to know what are your other ventures.
True. So um, there is we have this spaced learning or spaced repetition app, which is currently called Knowledge Gym. So the idea is, right, you cannot go to the gym one time, do some weightlifting, and think you're becoming a strong
Yeah.
person. That's not
Yep.
how it works. You need to go to the gym on a regular basis, at least a few times a week. And if you do that over time, you will become strong. And in the same sense, we see our solution. So you should not do the learning one time and then forget about it. That's not how you get strong in it. You need to be exposed to it over and over again. Yeah. So that is called Knowledge Gym, and we're now building the second version of this one together with the Ministry of Education in Singapore, which will probably be called Strive, which is an acronym. I already forgot for what it stands, but I'll put that somewhere on the website. So yeah, that's the app, and it helps you to do micro repetitions of your knowledge. The Outlook plugin is actually from a different company, a feature
Okay.
that so there's this company called Office Analytica. That's a German-based company. And with Office Analytica, we focus on increasing productivity in the office environment. So the typical office environment includes a lot of Outlook, sending emails. I think research shows that 20 to 30% of the daily time an office worker is spending on emails. That's a huge amount. And this Outlook plugin plugs into Outlook and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
analyzes the behavior of how emails are being sent. So, for
Hmm.
example, when I was working for big organizations, they have a tendency to, put a lot of people in CC, in copy, right? Just
Hmm.
cover my ass kind of style, like at least I informed everybody. But
Yeah,
normally the
yeah.
reality is everybody that is in CC, uh, at least I wasn't reading the emails. I'm not sure if everybody was reading them. So it's a waste, right? And how can we get rid of this waste? Because even if I receive an email that I'm in CC, I now need to look at the email. I say, okay, I'm just in copy. It's not really relevant for me. I need to take the email. I need to put it away somewhere. It's a lot of steps that I do, and maybe 30% of the emails is just this waste. So can we reduce that? Can we put in a traffic light that if somebody writes an email and has somebody on CC or 3 people on CC or 5 people on CC, that a warning
Hmm.
light is going up and say, hey, do you really need to copy all those people? Because every person that you add here
Yeah,
increases the time spent for office work, like for email
exactly.
readings and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so the company, they can configure settings, for example, how many people should be on CC, how do we want people to send documents via email, or do we want people to put the documents on our central hard drive and then just link to it? It's one part is that sending an email, of course, still has an ecological footprint if you send a document because it's more processing power that needs to happen. But you also have multiple versions of the same document now, right? And then there's a lot of mess being created. So you should have the
Yep.
central repository. But then there's other measures that you could look at, for example, the length of an email. If somebody is writing too much text, somebody else needs to read this text. So, like, is it really useful to have 3 pages of text inside an email, or
Yeah.
should it be rather 2 paragraphs and that's it?
Very
We
crisp.
also
Yeah.
can automatically propose email text. So you just say, I need an email about this one, and then the AI makes a proposal for you. And the beautiful thing is the management team, they will have a dashboard and they can look at and understand, like, office KPIs, like how many emails have we sent this month versus last month? How many people were in CC? How many documents were we sending around? How often did we copy VIPs in emails? Because the VIPs, like
Hmm.
business leaders or department heads or company owners, they don't have much time to read to be copied on so many emails. Just give them the most relevant information, and the rest they need to focus on business development.
Yep.
So all this kind of settings, and you have that visually, and you see also what does that actually mean in hours and in money. So you can actually see how much savings you achieve by reducing those kind of behavior. And that's what Office Analytica is doing, in addition to also
Hmm.
focusing on the German AI market and helping here companies to set up their own um, local AI models and doing some consulting on how to have GDPR compliant AI products implemented and things like that.
Brilliant. Now, I mean, this is a pretty non-technical kind of a question. Now, I mean, coming to the names of the companies that you have mentioned, me, Blue Elephant Solutions, Office Analytica. I mean, these have come from from the verse of creativity. So, Christian, how did you decide the names for your company? Like, was it like a mutual, was it like your self decision, or did you discuss it with your friend or with any of your a group of friends? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. So Blue Elephant Solutions was so developed by myself. I'm the only owner of Blue Elephant Solutions, and it was the reasoning behind that is at least in Germany we have this saying. I'm not sure if that is around the world, but
Okay.
elephants never forget, right? If you do some harm to an elephant now, even
Yeah.
after 20 years, he will recognize your face and he will maybe then
That's a
not
universal.
not
Yeah.
entertain you. Let's put it like
That's a
that. So
universal quote. In India, also we follow that.
yeah. So I was looking at that and was thinking, okay, I want to have something with elephants because they have this huge memory and this great memory
Okay.
and be that reflected because we want to think about knowledge and training and things like that. And then blue is just a business color and solutions comes from because I don't want to only have one tool, but I think a suite
Mhm.
of tools that you can plug in and plug out
Right.
is really the best approach. So that's why it's Blue Elephants Solutions. And Office
Brilliant.
Analytica is a
Yeah.
company I share with some friends. And there it was just a discussion on how we can call this. It should have something to do with Office because that's what we focus on, and Analytica because we are really a data-driven company. So it's not just Office consulting or something like this, but it's really we look at the data and we help you to use your data to improve your business.
Brilliant. Now, you're just saying that, you are running this company with your group of friends. So, was the title of this company discussed like on any of your, dinner meets or let's say, a family gathering or let's say a reunion? Did, did that transpire in such
I
a way?
think we had multiple because we're also spread across the world at that time, virtual meetings, and we're discussing it at that time.
Awesome. So that's pretty good to know. I mean the non-technical part of it, we're just going in different dimensions now. Now, if I just wanted to understand, Christian, like you were just telling me about custom software development, but I wanted to understand it from you. Like, what is your take on custom software development and SaaS development?
Yeah. I mean, so we started to look into product development, meaning SaaS, software as a service. And that's still the core of our company. But just to all you listeners out there, building a product is a difficult thing because you need to really investigate very clearly what are the customer needs that you want to serve. And you need to build a product that fits to the needs of many, many customers. And normally, customers have very specific and different needs. So you need to find a solution that really caters to most of them. And in comparison to that, the individual software development is a much easier business, I would say, because you the customers come to you, they say exactly what they want, and you just develop exactly what they want. So there is no problems in that. But it's of course more time consuming and not as scalable. And like with custom software development, I actually now have in the next 4 minutes my next call with a customer. So you have constant updates with the customer on this one whereby in SaaS solutions, you build it yourself and you have less exposure to customers.
That's brilliant to know. Now, you were just mentioning me about the AI-driven retention app. Now, what is the backend technology that you have used, in creating this particular app?
So the core part, of course, is the AI or machine learning self improving algorithm, which is developed in Python. So Python is one of the biggest and strongest solutions to be used when it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning. And if somebody still wants to learn coding, which I'm not sure if that is the right thing to do, then Python is definitely the language that you need to be able
Yeah.
to know. And the rest we do actually a lot of what we call hyper development, where we just where the AI takes over the role of the coder, and we are more the project manager, and we tell the AI what it should develop, and it actually develops the code for us. It's still important to have IT knowledge. So this role of as business economics and computer science, this interpreter between business requirements and IT is still needed. But then, and you need to understand what kind of overall framework you want to have. You need to guide the AI in the right directions with also IT implementations, but then the AI can actually code for you pretty much individually.
Totally, I totally relate to that because you were just saying that Python is the future of the backend, the backend programming no, programming languages. Because I'm a data science student and we have multiple assignments in Python, and all the things, everything revolves around Python for us. Now, Christian, before we conclude our podcast segment, let's take a lighter route and let's go towards the rapid fire round. So rapid fire is just, all exclusive about the technical round that I was, just trying to pitch out to you. So Christian, since you're based in Germany, what is your favorite Bundesliga team, football team?
Mainz.
Okay, mine's all right. What's your favorite Indian street food?
Not really street food, but butter chicken.
That's universal. That's pretty good. What's
Yes.
your favorite holiday destination?
Well, I haven't been on any holidays for the last 5 years, but we have a farmhouse between Berlin and Hamburg, and that's a really nice small city or town, 100 people living there. It's a good place to come down and detox from all the IT stuff.
Amazing. What's your favorite place in Singapore that that you always like to hang out?
Also good question. There's a few, but I really enjoyed all the rooftop bars in Singapore.
Brilliant. What was the last movie that you have watched?
Oh, that's long ago. I
Oh,
think it was some kind of kids movie with my son about a cow, and like it's like for 2 or 3 year old people, kids. So
all
yeah.
right. That's pretty brilliant. So, thank you so much, Christian, for taking time from your busy schedule, and finally, the day, I mean, we made our collaboration come true, and it was amazing, collaborating with you, especially conversing with you and taking through your journey. The major thing, that actually struck a chord with me was about the AI driven retention app, about space learning, the way you were just explaining that terminology. And along with that, your experience of working with the Singapore Institute for Adult Education, and in your tenure being a consultant for the BMW company, which was really, really remarkable. I'm sure our listeners would be huge car fans, and definitely they would resonate with this particular aspect of things. So, thank you once again, Christian, for taking time from your busy schedule and being part of this TechoSpace podcast initiative. Thank you so much.
I really have to thank you. It's a great pleasure, and all the best for your podcast, and all the best for your listeners. And if your listeners want to make any IT projects become reality, then give us a call. We're happy to make things happen for you.
With. So on this note, this is your host Akhil Navluri signing off. We would be back with another eminent industry leader very soon with another podcast episode. So on this note, keep listening, take care, goodbye, stay tuned, and dank. Thank you.